Good morning, everyone. All right, so this module we are going to be looking at the process for hiring a contractor. So we've looked at styles of houses, we designed our house, what we liked, we saw the architect and blueprints, how to read them. So we got our construction drawings made and how to read them. And so now what do we do in working with contractors? How to hire a good contractor, things to avoid, yourself as the homeowner. And so we're in this class, hopefully some of you might be actually building your own house, right? You are one of the contractors, but you're not an expert in everything, and no one is. And so you might have to hire out your plumbing, or you might have to hire out your electrical, or maybe you have to hire out the framing, whatever. You'll probably have to hire out something. And so you want to know some tips and how are we going to hire the best contractor for the job? And so we have two videos linked in here. There's a one where a guy is giving you tips on how to find a good contractor. And so I won't get really into it, but some things I recommend looking into are look at the company vehicles. Do they have good signage on their vehicles? Are their trucks clean? Do they look good? And then look at the workers themselves. How are they dressed? Are their clothes full of holes and just torn and covered in paint? Or do they look clean? Do they all have matching shirts? Because a company that invests in its image probably is going to invest in making sure that their product, what they create, looks good as well. And so there's a huge range in contractors, right? There's always going to be that guy who does it for dirt cheap, and then there's going to be the really high-end contractor. You probably don't need to get the high-end contractor for everything, but there's a phrase, cheap work ain't good and good work ain't cheap, right? So if you get the guy on the bottom, lots of times it's a scam. Either there's kind of two options for the guy who's really cheap. Either he has no idea what he's doing, he's just there to make a buck, and so he's going to do a really crappy job, and it's going to be terrible, and you're going to have to end up paying more money to fix what he did. And I hate seeing that in houses where a homeowner, they go and they choose cheap out, and they get something, and the door, they say they got a new door installed, and it leaks within a month, or it doesn't open or shut right because it gets stuck. There's so many things that could go wrong. Plumbing, it leaks. But you know what? That contractor, once he got that paycheck, once you gave him the money, he's out of there. You can't ever call him again. He won't answer the calls because he knows you did a crappy job, but he's just trying to get that check. And so watch out for the guys who are dirt cheap because they probably aren't licensed because they don't have the insurance and they don't have the bank account to cover themselves. And so they're just doing it under the table, probably aren't paying taxes right. And so it's just not a good situation, right? And they probably don't have the experience. They really don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of making it up. And so why some other people cost more because it costs money to have insurance. It costs money to have company vehicles. It costs money to get your license. So there's these things that cost them extra overhead money, and that's why they're charging more, but they're going to do the job right. And so usually the low baller he's not the best contractor to choose. So look for my suggestions again. Look, what do they look like? And then when you're talking to them, how do they talk? Do they have cognitive thoughts, or does it sound like they've drunk one too many the day before, right? Do they show up on time when they're supposed to meet you somewhere or call you? Are they calling you at a certain time? Are they on time or are they late? These kind of things are just warning signs for in the future. So watch out for that kind of stuff. And then some things just when you're talking to your contractor and some tips, things that we hate here in the industry, a skilled trade industry, is when you try to threaten us and say, hey, just so you know, I'm getting other bids out there, so make sure you give me a low price because you're going to be competing against other guys. Basically, you're threatening them and saying, hey, you better give me a low price or I'm not going to give you the work. Most contractors, if they're doing well, and so the guys who do good work, they're usually pretty busy. And so if they're doing well, they're going to say, well, screw it. I don't need your job. I can go work somewhere else and I'm going to get paid good. Because let's face it, it's frustrating in our industry how people assume they can try to get the price down because they assume all contractors are scams. And they're just trying to overprice everything and you can negotiate the price. You don't do that anywhere else. I mean, think about it. You don't go to a doctor. You need major surgery done, right? You have a heart attack and you need major bypass surgery. You don't go to that doctor and say, hey, there's a doctor across the street over the next city over. He can do it for this price. You better lower your price for my surgery. No. And on something like that, you want the best and you're willing to pay for the best because your life's on the line, right? So you're going to pay for the best doctor, best surgery, no matter what the cost. And so these things, it's silly that we do this, our house investment in something you're going to live in forever. And then maybe you're not going to live in it forever, but still you're going to sell it and you want the best bang for your buck so you can get your money back. And so if you get someone who's going to do a shoddy work, it's not going to get your money back, and it's going to break and it cost you more money. Right? So don't cheap out, hire the good guy, and don't insult him by trying to threaten him. Also, then, if you do have a contractor, don't compare. Don't be like, hey, this guy, why can this guy do it for so much cheaper than you can do it? Because you can't compare. It's not the same thing, because one contractor can be doing cheap materials. He can be doing cutting corners. He can not do it the right way. He can not pull a permit, so it's not getting inspected. All these things to protect you as the homeowner, he's not going to do. And then lots of times what he's going to do is he's going to price it really low, and then he's going to come back and do a bunch of change orders, which are basically he's going to say, oh, hey, I didn't know about this, and we're going to have to charge you extra. And so lots of times the low guys, they are the scam artists, and then they keep charging extra, and you end up paying the same amount anyways. But so just watch out for those things. Again, don't try to compare and contrast. It's like you guys can tell the difference between a cheap Walmart shoe and then a new pair of Jordans, right? The quality of the shoe is different. They both will cover your feet for a time being, but those Walmart shoes wear out really fast. And sometimes, I get them, sometimes you need them real quick in a pinch. That's all you can afford. And I get it. Sometimes that happens with contractors. You need something done fast, and that's what you can afford. But if you can, get the good thing. There's a saying, buy once, cry once, right? And so if you get the good one and it's going to last you, you only have to spend the money once. You're only crying once. Whereas if you keep getting cheap ones, you end up spending the same amount because you have to keep replacing it and doing it over and over again down the way. Example, I bought a cheap faucet for my sink remodel in my bathroom, and I got the really cheap one off Amazon. And it looked good, but it continually leaked and leaked and leaked. And so I kept buying all these different parts to try to fix it, and then ended up, what did I do? I gave up on it, and I had to go spend the $200 to get a really nice one. But guess what didn't leak? The first time I put it in, it worked just fine. And so sometimes you just got to do that. Get the better quality one so you know you can trust it and there's not going to leak. And as you gain experience, you're going to learn where can you go cheaper and where you want to spend the money. What are the important things? So watch out for that stuff. Don't insult your contractor. Hire the good ones. And it's worth it. The better the quality, it's worth the pay. So think about these things and enjoy learning about it. And then we're going to do an assignment. We're going to see, hey, if I were going to hire a contractor, who would I choose here in Lynchburg? Who are some of the best? Do some research and find out.